Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, live from the production facility.
Yes. So for those of you who are wondering where the glorious merch will be coming from, you only need to look to my left.
It's here. It's all here. This is where the magic happens. This is where things are made.
Exactly. And on top of that, if you go in there and you eat something you're not supposed to, we promise you will not turn into a blueberry. All right.
That is, if you eat things in here, they probably belong to me, and I may turn you into a blueberry as punishment.
Well, there you go.
Don't cross me.
All right. So, let's go ahead and get straight into it. Hatman, politics or entertainment? Where are we starting this week?
Do I have a coin I can flip? Yes, I do. I have a coin I can flip. All right. Heads is politics, tails is entertainment. Heads is politics.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. CT117 actually had a late question for us because he didn't get his in during the podcast itself. Said, with hearing about Bob Iger not wanting to have any filming in the state of Georgia due to the pro-life bill pass, is it wrong of me to be conservative and be a fan of Zootopia at the same time? No, not at all. You got to keep something in mind here, buddy. I'm still an MCU fan. You know, I still love Marvel Comics, you know, and the characters, even though I hate the way the comics are going these days. And at the end of the day, I'm able to separate art from boss, basically.
Yeah.
Which is something that I tend to ask people whenever it comes to dealing with a company, especially if you have to deal with them. Because I got asked something similar about Pride Month and being a Christian. And one thing you see, because I've mentioned before I work for a pretty big company, I'm not going to say which one, but one thing you do notice is that during Pride Month, a lot of the people who are Christians in the company that I work at, they're not wearing the rainbow anything. But they're not telling you not to. And then whenever it comes to like interacting with people from that company, say you have an insurance policy or a bank account or something like that, don't treat the person you're interacting with like the company.
Right. Because
that you can be frustrated with the company but not want to take it out on people.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean it's as easy as separating art from the artist. That's kind of what you have to do, because if you don't, you're going to end up hating a lot of art. You
won't consume any at any point. You don't want to be like the channel No Bullshit, where you're labeling everything SJW even when it's not, and you know, doing cunnilingus for Tara McCarthy. You'll fuck all that, you know. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's, you know, we're allowed to have disagreements, and I have a thing. Here's the thing about the whole Bob Iger thing: it's gonna blow over.
Oh yeah,
because they don't want to spend all the money to constantly film in Los Angeles. And they'll film in places like Ireland and things along those lines that have strict anti-abortion law. It's a virtue signal to try to pressure politicians to vote differently. This is how the game is played.
Same thing happened with HB2.
Exactly. So Hatman knows this very well because it happened in North Carolina. So, and then let's see here. Let's go ahead and move on to the rest of them. So Serena had a long one here, and Serena asks, hello, Micah and Hatman. Wanted to say thank you for answering my question, recommending the book Black Rednecks and White Liberals. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's on my list. Wanted to ask if why there is a growing stigma towards interracial relationships, or swirling, as some people like to call it, being portrayed in the media from a variety of communities, specifically the pro-black community and the alt-right, despite it not affecting them personally. I keep being told by people within my own community that interracial dating is a type of enslavement, or that black people are pre-programmed to find lighter skin or white individuals desirable. That's some Richard Spencer shit right there.
That's SJW shit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in like because we have our theories. Let's keep going. She's like halfway done. So she says some individuals in real life have started slut-shaming black women into dating black men, or worse, emotionally abusing their white partners into believing they are oppressors of black people and that they benefit from white privilege. Personally, I find this fucked up and in no way justified. As a black woman, I don't like the idea of my community or any racial community telling me I have to be with someone on the basis of race just because some people made poor decisions that put them in a less than desirable situation. The mindset makes me uncomfortable. I want to stay away from black men and date outside my race. Well, and that's the thing. If you... One thing that social justice warriors and racists like Richard Spencer or James Alsop or what have you. Oddly, the funny thing about Alsop is that he is a product of an interracial relationship. But people like that, what they tend to forget or what they tend to ignore is that to John and Jane Q. Public walking the street, what matters most is character. And oftentimes what will attract you to someone beyond the physical is character. You know, I have personally not dated outside of my ethnicity, basically white mutt, but at the same time had the opportunity presented itself with a woman who doesn't look like me, you know, doesn't look pasty, I would have taken it. You know, I think that really it's one of those things where we have our attractions and the things that attract us to different people. And what I think, Serena, I think you've realized, and there's some other people I've talked to who have come to the same realization. I've interacted with Young Ripa on Twitter before. And then, of course, you know, I did that stream with the amazing Lucas. And some other people within the black community is that they don't see, you know, skin color as much as you'd think. And there's just women that I've hung out with that are the same way, that would you know, they are black women, they date a white guy. I think that some of that is just, you're in New York, and there's a lot of that going around. Here in Illinois, not so much. There's interracial relationships everywhere because we've kind of grown beyond it in a way. It's just the state's culture. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you should never feel ashamed for, you know, liking or seeing past skin color and realizing that that's not all there is to a person. That's the right thing to do. You know, I know that Serena said that she's a Christian, and you know that's where God's heart is. You know, is with everybody. And there's never been a point where I've ever figured that, you know, the only times that, like, whenever it came to the scriptures was dating outside of the faith. That's when things get tough sometimes. I would know I've done it. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to date somebody who doesn't have the same principles that you do. So, regardless, if there's nobody who is a black man that you find yourself attracted to because of the character aspect, don't date them. Don't feel like you have to. There is no obligation to do such a thing. And if anybody's telling you otherwise, they're an idiot. Point blank, pure stop. Just no. Because you don't owe a loyalty to melanin.
Nope.
Neither do I, neither does anyone. So, anything to add on that one, Hatman? I kind of ranted for a while.
I have dated outside of my race. I've had an interracial relationship, though she was half Asian Pacific Islander. She was half Filipino. And, I mean, that's a bit different from, like, white and black. Like, very, very different. But, at the same time, it didn't really cause any issues. Like, there were no issues that we noticed. There weren't any people, like, side-eyeing us or whatever. And now I'm aware that there's a thing in social justice circles about Asian fetishism and how white men shouldn't date Asian women now because of that shit. And
yeah,
of course the colorism thing. You know, black people are meant to be more attracted to lighter skinned people because of that.
Do you remember that article I roasted from The Root a couple of years back about this very thing?
The colorism thing?
Yeah. Like talking about how black men need to abandon dating Asian girls.
Black men need to abandon date. Jesus Christ! I don't remember that one.
Well, and that's
I remember white men need to, because it's Asian fetishism. The fact that there's a term for it, yellow fever, just makes it terrible. Like, fuck off.
First off, there is a derogatory term for a white person being attracted to anybody of any different race.
Yes.
Like, and I will not repeat them, but
yes.
The instant I say that, I know that like 6 or 7 will roll through everybody's head. So, all right, let's move on. Gojira asks, what do you think a straight pride march would look like? I'm thinking men in nice suits and ladies in pretty dresses, or like regular American working men. Well, that's the funny thing about this whole straight pride march is it's ridiculous. But the thing is that from what I have seen, the organizers know that it's ridiculous, and that's the point.
It's a troll job. Everybody is taking it so seriously, but it's an obvious troll job. I mean, they got Milo as master of ceremony. That's how you know it's a fucking troll job.
Oh God! And it seems to me like the message is that we're all Americans. Like, why are we dividing ourselves? Which is going to be I think the right's message over the next few years is we're all Americans. Why are we dividing ourselves? You know, because and this is one thing that I've been noticing is that the jig is kind of up when it comes to the left, that they're consistently trying to divide everything down lines, and people are getting tired of it because now, like, the fact that nobody disputes the term fake news and that news is partisan is big, because during the Obama years, everybody would try to tell you that it's impartial. Fuck no.
Nope, it wasn't news then.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind, it's like CNN and MSNBC spent a year and a half literally on a fake news story in the Trump-Russia thing. Mm-hmm. Quite literally fake news.
I mean, they didn't have to do their jobs under Obama.
Yeah.
That was 8 years of, well, we don't have to fact check the current administration.
The party never lies. All right. Altus Whisper wants to know, there was a Vice article published recently called "Denmark's Elections Show How Much Europe Has Normalized Anti-Immigrant Politics." What is it with progressives and immigrants? Well, and that's the funny part about it. They constantly say it's anti-immigrant policies, but none of these nations have shut off immigration. They have become more restrictive about illegal immigration. And that's the thing. It's not immigration. They want open borders.
Yeah, that's always the plan. Globalization, open borders. No nations, no countries. They don't want that.
Yep.
Remember, read the Antifa handbook.
Yes, definitely.
They're anarchists.
Diego Camacho wants to know, do we know what the Cristero War was? If so, do we think we might see a situation similar to it in the future? I have not heard of this.
Cristero War?
Cristero War, yes.
Cristero.
So, was war or the Cristero Rebellion, I'm reading from Wikipedia here, if it'll load, was a widespread struggle in central western Mexico in response to the imposition of secularist, state atheism, anti-Catholic, and anti-clerical articles of the 1917 Constitution of Mexico. The rebellion was instigated as a response to an executive decree by President Plutarco Elias Calles to enforce Articles 3, 5, 27, 24, 27, and 130 of the Constitution, also known as the Calles Law. Calles sought to eliminate the power of the Catholic Church and all organizations which were affiliated with it as an institution and suppress popular religious celebrations in local communities. That is a very good question. So the name sounded familiar. I just wanted to look into it a little bit more. Because the thing is that Mexico, in a sense, is more religious in tradition than America is, and that's saying something. So and that's why you have a lot of immigrants that are second generation Latino that don't vote Democrat anymore. They vote Republican, and are oftentimes, same with Cubans too, by the way, oftentimes because they've seen these policies, and they're just naturally conservative people because of how religious they are.
Yeah, like hardcore Catholic.
Yeah. So it's like, when's the last time you ever saw a Mexican panhandler?
Actually, a couple months ago.
Well, I've never seen one personally, and I've been.
It wasn't one. It was a family. They actually did look like in need.
Okay.
This was not your typical, someone just put on a ratty t-shirt and jeans.
Here's the question: was it will work for food? Or will work?
I don't remember. I don't think it had anything about work on their sign at all. But I do remember it was like a family of 4 or 5 there.
Doubting the Mexicanness. Maybe they're Puerto Rican. Just kidding.
Possibly. I don't know.
But it's not something you see very often because the culture is very conservative. So obviously Catholicism is very big, and here in the United States, it's not a big group, but there is a loud group of people that are very, very anti-religion. And to the point where they despise the First Amendment if it doesn't apply to them, meaning especially freedom of religion. There are people out there that I have no doubt if they could remove religious protections from the Constitution tomorrow, they would. You've got people like
not just your edgy atheists; these are the anti-theists.
Yeah, people like the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Oh,
that cringy bunch of goofballs. Like they are actively. I remember the Andrew Seidel interview where he said straight, like, carte blanche to Dave Rubin, the words "weaponizing religious freedom."
Huh?
Exactly. So, but yeah, if there was ever a day where religious Christians in the United States, which, by the way, of all settlements of Christians in the world, that include the biggest ones are, bless you, a chunk of Africa, China, and then us, we're the ones that would take up arms, and it would be Deus Vult all over again.
Looking them down.
Yeah. We would be playing Sabaton in the streets and just overthrowing the government at that point.
In the name of God.
Exactly. So yeah, it could happen if it happened here in the United States, and if with Mexico too, it would happen again, I would think. So. Walumancer the Wallfather asks a good question. I heard an argument recently that the populist rise in the Republicans will come back to bite them because they're focused too much on winning than actual arguments. Thoughts? So that's a good statement that's been made. I've seen Nikki Haley make it. I've seen members of the National Review make it. And I've seen some bite back from people who call themselves wartime conservatives. So, and a lot of it is guys over at Human Events. I mean, you and I both know Ian Miles Chong, who's there. Jack Posobiec writes there now. And I think Will Chamberlain's the name of the guy who runs it. And recently, like, there were articles that they put out, because their whole thing is winning the culture war, which is a good pursuit. But they put out this article asking for David French to be fired from the National Review. And I'm like, why? He put up an argument you didn't like, and you're asking for his job. That's not an argument. That's childish. And you're just... Yeah, and you're just trying to banter support to get people to get mad about it. And it, of course, didn't go anywhere. And I don't think that it did them any favors. And it won't. If you want to counter some... And this is where the flaw is. There's nothing wrong with winning. But the question is, how are you winning? If you're just memeing people, that's funny. But there's going to be a point where you're going to run into somebody and you're going to have a hard time arguing against them if you don't know your shit. Here's a good example for you. Andrew Yang. If Andrew Yang sat in front of Tucker Carlson and did an interview, Tucker would agree with half the stuff he says. And then people would just be like, oh, yeah, I love socialism now. Which is ridiculous. And that's the problem, is that just nationalism, blind nationalism, leads to statism. Every fucking time. And this new breed of right, if they do not get on the principles bandwagon, they don't stand for anything. And that's what kills you in the long run. Like, why are SJWs losing? Because they don't really stand for anything. And the things that they do stand for are destroying everybody who disagrees with them. So, if that's all you are, when time comes for substance, if you don't have it, people will notice it.
Yep.
That, oddly enough, is why the Tea Party was so successful. And people who were a part of that movement continue to be successful within politics. You know, you got to keep in mind, Dana Lash is now one of the higher-ups of the NRA. You know, Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, of course, two of the most powerful senators in Washington. You know, and it continues to have an effect that, you know, people that were inspired by that. You know, Ben Shapiro is the number one conservative commentator in the world right now. You know, he was a part of the Tea Party movement. So that's long-term effect. You know, given current course, do I think that human events and Will Chamberlain are going to be around in 4 years? No. You want to compete with the National Review, you need to be competing with ideas, because the National Review's been around for over 100 years. You have to be able to argue. You can't just ask for people's heads. You can't just ask for this and that and cry like a baby. You want to, if you're going to be an actual wartime conservative, you need to know how to fight instead of just throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Tantrums, that's what the SJWs do.
Mm-hmm.
It works for them.
Exactly.
Their damn level.
How many people were converted to conservatism by Jack Posobiec shouting about gerbils? Zero.
Willing to bet a full zero.
Yeah. Incel Mafioso wants to know, thoughts on the Antifa guy trying to chain a group of college Republicans in a room? Why can't these people just be civil? Because they're brainwashed.
Because they don't care about civility. They never did. Their literal goal is to overthrow all the governments of the world, all world states, because they believe that what we really need is anarcho-communism. Like, that's going to solve the world's fucking problems. It's not about stability with them. It literally is about destroying the opposition by any means necessary.
Yep.
That's why you see that term thrown around so often. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. If anything, I'm more surprised that it's taken this long for them to really jump on, you know, what they've been preaching for the longest fucking time.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if we run into some of them at the International Conference for Men's Issues.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
So. Alright. Swordsman 100 asks, isn't getting rid of all conspiracy theorists dangerous? Sure, it's normally mostly bunk, but on rare occasions one turns out to be true and the far left uses it to label. So, getting rid of, I don't think is... Because I know he's talking about YouTube. I don't really agree with that policy. Again, my policy is, you know, whoever has the channel sets the rules for their channel. If it's anything goes, it's anything goes. If you want to have rules like we do, then you have them. But for a platform, I can understand not wanting genocide deniers. not wanting to give them a platform for lunacy. But, like, gay frogs, harmless. You know? But on top of that, I do believe that sunshine really is the best disinfectant. You know, you put out something about the Holocaust not happening, you're going to get people who would debunk you all day, and you will be seen as an evil human being. There are no Holocaust deniers that are seen in a good light. And even people I know that I've talked to that are InfoWars fans, when I talk to them about him denying that Sandy Hook ever happened, yeah, they'll go, that's fucked up. Right, a lot of guys that I talk to these days, they take Paul Joseph Watson seriously, and they're with Alex Jones for the memes. So,
yeah, it's getting to the point where even things like aliens, like that shit, is being censored on YouTube. Like straight up, you look up, because I do this on occasion because I think it's fucking hilarious, and I kind of zone out sometimes. I watch Ancient Aliens or whatever. Look up like UFO conspiracy on YouTube, and it's got that same like boilerplate. Here's all the verified news sources, talking about this stuff. Like straight up CNN, NBC, whatnot. Not like these little small channels that do their top 10 weirdest alien encounter thing. That bullshit. When you're filtering results on that, something's not right. And it kind of does give the conspiracy theorists some ammunition. Not gonna fucking lie.
Yeah.
But no, I get what they're trying to do with it. It's using a shotgun to kill a fly. Let's be real.
Yeah, pretty much. Because there's not really that many people that believe that shit.
Yeah, seriously. And like, even as far as flat earthers, like, why is that so dangerous that it needs to be censored?
Because someone's wrong on the internet.
It's crazy. Like, I can understand anti-vaxxers. I can understand Holocaust deniers, mass shooting deniers, all that shit. I can understand that. But aliens and flat Earth, I wonder if they've gotten the Earth is hollow believers.
Oh God.
Actually, I'm curious.
That was in Godzilla. I laughed at that. I'm like, Hollow Earth, really?
No, not really. Not really. Although I am seeing a lot of verified channels, but it's not all over the place. So, all right, Hollow Earthers, you're good.
All right. So next is entertainment. And that's weird. An old question from Dan Course Elric made it in here. Will Geary wants to know, would you say Matt Fraction's Invincible Iron Man was the last real good Iron Man book? Yes. It was the best one since David Michelini's run, and nobody's come close to it since. No thoughts, Hatman?
Not really.
Fair enough. Let's see here. Have either of you heard of Warframe? It's a free-to-play that is like Destiny and Anthem, but better and doesn't force you to pay money. I played it a little bit. Wasn't really my thing.
Don't care. I played a little bit of Destiny. Didn't really like it. Not my cup of tea. So probably wouldn't care for Warframe.
Did I tell you my experience with Destiny 2?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I had told that story because that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, this is stupid. Okay, Eclectic wants to know. I was in a chat yesterday where they were talking about the Western Washington wilderness, and it is scary. So I didn't know in a place in the U.S. that sounds like a horror set. Any forest, really. I mean, thank you, Blair Witch Project.
Yep. Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania, and pretty much anywhere in the Appalachian Mountains, like deep into it. Those are some creepy woods, and we used to have a house that was like right there in them. And yep, basically, being out there at night was not something that we wanted to do, especially because we had bear encounters. Black bear encounters.
Delicious.
Yeah, I suppose we seemed very delicious to them.
I want to eat a bear.
You can. Some people will kill bears for meat. I don't know if I'd ever want to try bear. It'd be really gamey.
Yeah, probably.
If anyone out there is eating bear, let us know how it tastes.
Brian Gilmartin wants to know thoughts on Mark Wade's latest public tantrum, and do you think it will affect his case against Richard Meyer, your boy Zach?
Oh God, what was it now?
He was basically telling a comic book store owner that he didn't like to fuck off at a comic event, calling him a garbage human and all this other stuff. And he continued to do it when the guy was just trying to get an idea of what Humanoids, the company he's running now, is offering. And he continued to like hurl insults at him while he was talking to somebody else at the booth to get information. Because nobody wants to talk to Mark Wade. Mark Wade's a prick.
There's video of this?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's just... It sounds like something Mark Wade would do. But, yeah, nobody videotaped it. Yeah. One thing you guys got to keep in mind, Mark Wade is not a popular guy among comic fans these days.
Yeah, Mark Wade is a dickhead.
Well, he's a prick. Mark Wade is a prick. We're going to put it on a t-shirt. Mark Wade is a prick.
He is a dickhead. His only concern is that his head is a dick and it's still attached to his neck.
So what we find ourselves with is a guy who can't keep his fucking mouth shut and is willing to try to bully people. And he has a habit of this to get what he wants. He's a giant fucking baby. And yeah, when this, because deposition is still ongoing, when it concludes, we're going to see everything of Mark Wade laid to bear, and his lawyer knows he's fucked. He's just trying to grandstand at this point.
Yeah, because what was it? They recommended the charge of, not the charge, but tortious interference continued, but did not recommend defamation.
Yeah, defamation did not continue, but tortious interference did. So
that's the big one.
Yeah, that's the one that affects the dollars. And if Wade loses, he's $100,000 out. So, and probably plus legal fees. So that's a big loss. And he should lose because again, Mark Wade's a prick. All right. So, Gojira wants to know, favorite WrestleMania? Or which one do you think is the best? That is a good question.
Let's see.
I'm trying to think of a few.
Yes, That is the one that I'm thinking of. WrestleMania 3 because of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
For me, it's kind of tough. Because WrestleMania 20 is a really good one. That one had the Return of the Undertaker, the Return of the Dead Man gimmick. Had Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle for the WWE title. It had Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's considered one of the best matches in WrestleMania history. I think WrestleMania 20 is going to have to be my pick. Though the best crowd reaction you will ever see is from 18. Because that was Hulk versus The Rock. They tried to put like the whole once in a generation thing between like Hogan and Cena. I'm sorry, not Hogan, The Rock and Cena. Because they had done The Rock and Hogan, and it's just, you compare the two matches, it's night and day. So, Hatman, what do you think?
I'm still gonna stick with 3, only because the main event is just so iconic. I mean, it's hard to argue that. Wow, I'm really gonna forget his fucking name already. Jesus Christ. I'm really gonna forget his name. Hulk Hogan, my God.
Oh, dear Lord.
Hatman, you absolute moron. I literally just said it a few minutes ago. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Like that. It's hard to argue that is not one of the best matches. And I'm not huge into WWE or wrestling at all, really, but that's something that I grew up seeing, and I remember it. Solid.
All right. Let's see here. Swordsman 100 asks thoughts on someone high up for the MCU saying if she had her way, the new MCU X-Men wouldn't be called X-Men because it's outdated. Yeah, good luck selling tickets on that, bitch. It's outdated. Shut up.
Stan Lee would tell you to fuck off.
Yeah. Diego Camacho wants to know, or it says here, I think the X-Men's gay/race metaphor has gotten stale. I think mutant fear makes sense in universe. I think it would be interesting to explore from a sympathetic light. Thoughts? Yeah. I don't think we've answered this one yet.
No. I mean, didn't they actually explore the legitimacy behind the anti-mutant belief?
I don't know, honestly. But I always thought it would be an interesting way to do it, but nobody would want to do it in this day and age because they think it would be glorifying racism.
Well, the Cure, I think, is about as close as we've gotten.
Yeah. What I would think is that if I were to do a story, I would love to do a story about a guy who is going after someone like Sabretooth for killing a member of his family. Dude hates mutants. Sabretooth's under the protection of the X-Men at the time, and it's an interesting revenge story. Because you look at mutants like Sabretooth, and he's kind of reformed now, but you look at Magneto years ago, and stuff like that, you can kind of understand why there was anti-mutant sentiment, because you've got these guys who are fighting against the good guys, fighting against the Avengers and such, and seem unstoppable to a normal person. So now what? So I think it would be interesting to do, but I don't think anybody ever would. But I think that's part of the reason as to why it has gotten stale. Is like, it, you know, if you use it purely as a metaphor for racism, for transgenderism, for homosexuality, it gets stale really quickly. Because you can only really do the bigotry shtick for so long.
Yeah.
To the point where it gets really old. Because I when I did Guggenheim's X-Men Gold, like, it was so bad that, like, he had a blatant Richard Spencer clone. And it was just stupid. Alright. Altus Whisperer wants to know, thoughts on Anthony Fantano being overly critical towards Boogie's fence-sitting over the Vox Crowder fiasco. I admit I don't like Boogie, but I think that Anthony went too far. Well, I don't know what all happened there. I do know that Boogie is a fence sitter. He is one with the fences with him. But at the same time, I could kind of understand, at least to degrees, why some people were a little frustrated at Steven Crowder, because they perceived what he was saying as pretty insulting. I didn't, and I still stand with the fact that I don't think that he was being that insulting at all, aside from what a normal comic would say. And
this guy.
But even beyond that, the instant the mass monetization started to come in, Boogie seemed to change his mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Fantano needs to kind of chill the fuck out.
Well, I don't think he's going after Boogie for really being a fence sitter as much as just, this is part of the whole, centrists believe this, so of course you must be an asshole because that whole bullshit. I think we should kill 50 babies. I don't think that. And the centrist says, I think we should kill 25 babies. No.
That is the strawest of men.
It is. And yet, people continue with it. And they think this is the greatest fucking thing ever. And they repost that dumbass comic with the fucking Black Lives Matter protesters and the KKK. And fuck that. And fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Had to hit it at least once.
Yeah. Like, Boogie actually took a side, and yet it's still seen as, well, you're still taking the side of the oppressor even when you're sitting on the fence. Like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, you can be opposed to what Steven Crowder says and think he's a dick and hate him and whatever, and still think what happened to him is bullshit.
Exactly.
Not difficult people. Not always black and white.
Even David Pakman admitted that it was not a good thing to do.
Yep.
And when David Pakman, the most spineless progressive I've ever seen, is saying that, you lost. Because, Jesus Christ, Pakman is David, I need you to go to the doctor. Because you don't have a spine, and that's not normal. You need to get one implanted.
Jellyfish motherfucker.
Yeah. Alright. Crystal Wing 2149 asks, for D&D, my vigilante tiefling necromancer, it's a mouthful, has proven quite popular among D&D circles. How does Blarg feel about tieflings? Also, do you have any more misadventures of Blarg? I am still mulling over whether or not I want to do a Misadventures of Blarg book. if I did do it as a comic, I would have to have my friend Devin write it with me because he was part of those D&D sessions. So I would need him to create a straight man character because, dear God, Blarg is a freaking whirlwind. As for tieflings, I had kind of thought, like, at one point, if I was going to write a book, that I would have a female companion for him where they always get angry and throw stuff at each other. And that kind of be the running gag. But I ended up abandoning it, but it would have probably been a tiefling just to make it weird. And then finally, Walumancer the Wawfather wants to know, either of you know anything about getting a novel published? Still a long way off for me, but I understand the process can be complicated. A lot of people I know these days are self-publishing on Amazon.
Yep, that's the easiest way to do it at this point. Because if you want it done by like a proper publisher, you have to have an editor on your side, you have to go in for a pitch, and 9 times out of 10 you won't even get that far, or really 99 times out of 100 you won't even get that far, and even then, like, if they don't like your pitch, then you're fucked and going to the next one, and it's just whoever. Though what I've been repeatedly told is you don't sell a novel, you sell a series.
Yes, exactly.
That's what they're buying nowadays.
Everybody wants franchises.
They want franchises because then they can continue to print money with them. They can option the film rights or TV series, video games and whatnot. That's what they want. They want a license more than anything else. So if you have an idea for a series, like I do, and like I'm crazily working on because I'm a fucking madman, that's what you gotta have. But if it's just like a light novel or a one-off or something, self-publish it. Just, that is the way to do it now.
Pretty much. Goodness. We're out of questions.
So it would seem.
And I don't know what to title this episode. I guess insert episode name here.
I suppose so. Fuck
yeah.
it.
All right, folks. We really appreciate you stopping by and watching this. We've got a few new subscribers. We're past the 800 mark now. Next goal is 1,000. So, and then once we hit that mark, I know I'm going to need more mods. So, we have a couple of you in mind. We're not saying who. But other things to update before we head out is Inglewood now has a colorist. So that's awesome. His name is Armand Strange. And he's very, very good at what he does, to say the least. We will be bringing a letterer onto the team as well. Like we said, June 28th is when the comic book will be put on Indiegogo. That's in 13 days, so just under 2 weeks from now. So that's exciting times, to say the least. So, other than that, I don't really have... Oh, yes, merch. We will be setting up by the time you guys see this video, the day after is when we're going to register the stuff at Shopify so that, excuse me, that'll be rocking and rolling. We are also considering a subscription service for those of you who would prefer to do a monthly thing but don't want to use Patreon, which I've seen less and less people want to do. So it would basically just be like $5 a month. We send you a shot glass with the Vanilla Gorilla seal of approval on it, along with a little poster board that is the Micah Curtis drinking game. So, and we have Elusive Swede. We have Elusive Swede working on that logo, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, that's exciting times, to say the least. And I think that, you know, I know that we've got a lot of people who are really looking forward to getting their hands on t-shirts. We're going to look into how to ship internationally, how much that is going to cost, Because one thing I will say is that when we put all of our prices out there, it is that price plus shipping. It's not a flat rate. So, because shipping internationally costs a fuck ton.
Yes, it does.
So, Hatman, anything we should add?
Expect to see quite a bit more of me in here. Because I'm going to be doing all that stuff. I'm going to be making things for y'all. All your t-shirts and stuff, that's going to be on me. That's going to be my responsibility. So if I fuck it up, you know who to blame.
Exactly.
Shame.
Yeah, everybody's shame to Hatman! Everyone's shame to Hatman!
Shame! 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 Shame!
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Alright. We're going to go ahead and take off. Do you want an explanation for me wearing the suit? Too bad, not going to get it. So, we will see you guys next time. My name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla.
I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
See you guys very soon. Deus Volt.